All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the Street Uni podcast today. I'm
Pleasure.
looking forward to interviewing you. I'm Gemma, by the way. For those of you who don't know, I'm Gemma, and today I have the honor and privilege of interviewing the magnificent Alphamama.
Yay, it's me.
This is one of my first times interviewing someone, so be patient with me if I'm awkward. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure that it'll be lit. So I prepared some questions, some funky questions. But first of all, I really want to chat about music because I myself am a muser, and I'm sure that so many listeners also are really keen to get into music. So I wanted to ask you, what made you want to get into music, and how'd you get started?
Okay.
Phone call. Yeah.
So for me, I think it was something that came naturally.
Mhm.
I was always a very creative kid, and I did painting, poetry, singing, dancing, all the things that kids naturally do. And then when I was about 8, my dad decided he was going to quit his job and become a pastor of an Indonesian church. So that was like a big life change. And so going into church, he kind of needed me to, he had this vision that I was going to take over the church eventually one day. So he trained me up to like lead the worship, and that was kind of my musical background, my musical education. And I had a few people who would teach me things and I guess heard me sing and were like, yeah, you're really good. You should do this. But it was in the context of church. That was what I was encouraged in. And when I finished high school, I had no idea really what I wanted to do. And I didn't know anybody who was a professional musician. So I didn't actually see that as a possibility for myself. So I kind of finished high school and I got a job as a secretary doing some translation stuff. And then I think I did that for a year, and I realized that if I had to work in an office for the rest of my life, I would be miserable. I could not do it. And music was just so present for me. And I met this person who I ended up dating who was a professional musician. And this was the first person that I'd ever met who did it professionally and who wasn't famous. So it's like something clicked in my brain. And I was like, you can actually have a career in music without having to be a famous celebrity like Britney Spears. Like I had never considered that possibility up until I was 18. So once that dropped in, I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And, I guess from there, that was it. I haven't looked back since then.
Oh, so cool. Well, what were like the first like steps that you started taking to like start making music like a professional career? What were some of the first
writing
steps?
Yeah, I was always writing, but I had no idea, what to do with the songs. And I guess I was very fortunate in that I had this partner very early on who was in the industry, and I could go to his gigs and see, people doing it and make some friends. And initially, really, what I needed, I knew I just needed airtime. I knew I just needed to put my hours in. So any opportunity that there was for me to sing, I would just take it. And I would be going to everyone's gigs and I would ask if I could sing backup vocals because I love harmonies. So if I knew that someone was having a gig, I'd be like, hey, let me sing for you. Can I jump up and do one song? Like all the jams, I was doing all of it because I realized that nobody knew who I was. So I had to earn my stripes, I had to kind of pay my dues. So I was just doing anything and everything that I could possibly do, which led to singing in some cover bands professionally and getting some gigs. And I also had a development deal who were working on my first EP, and this is around 2004. This is a very long time ago, yeah.
I was like 14.
Yeah,
No,
2004. Yeah, a very long time ago. So I was working on developing my songs, and that all kind of crashed out. Everything fell apart from there. And so, I've got so many stories that I could tell, but essentially, the first things that I had to do was realize that there was something in me that was worth developing. you know, if you want to call that potential talent or whatever, I had to kind of realize that, yeah, I did have something and it was worth putting the hours into developing, and it was worth actually giving it a red hot go. And then really just putting my extreme insecurity and pride to the side, and really going out there and asking for opportunities, and offering my services and supporting other people so that I could get my foot in the door.
Mm, mm. Oh, that's so cool. And I'm sure like so like yeah, like even just listening to like it's so true. Like as someone who's just getting started, like it's so true. You really just have to like put your hand up for any opportunity that you can take. And it's so daunting.
It's so
Um,
daunting.
it's so daunting. Yeah. You got your start in Sydney?
Yeah, I've always been in Sydney. I've traveled a little bit, but basically born and raised and grew up in Sydney. So it's been, I've seen the Sydney music scene change a lot over the years, and you know, I've run different events and promoted different things and started jam sessions, and you know, run my own, put on my own gigs, put on my own shows. So I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot change as well.
Okay. Um, well, I think like this would be an interesting question. Like, how do you think that the Sydney music scene has like changed over the years from when you got started?
Mm. It's really interesting. In some ways, it's changed a lot, and in some ways, it hasn't changed at all. So it's really interesting. So musically, there's always been so much talent in Sydney, and that's undeniable. You know, we have a really world-class, high caliber talent pool. You know, whenever I've gone traveling to America or wherever I've been, it's undeniable that we are world standard, you know. However, because we have such a small population, we kind of often hit this limit of growth, and it's very hard for us to move past that. And so we just kind of end up doing the circuit again and again, because it's really difficult to break out of that. So I see a lot of really talented artists and, you know, peers of mine who have kind of forgotten or given up on their ambitions and their dreams because they've felt so stuck and so limited. So they've just resigned to being a big fish in a small pond, and making the best of it. And I you know, when you get into the cover scene and you start getting paid to sing other people's music, it can become very comfortable because you know how much you're going to make, you know, the circuit, you do the thing, you do that dance, and it's like repeat the formula over and over again. And you can do that. And then you can do that, you know, until you get old. But is it fulfilling? And for me, it wasn't fulfilling. I got to a point where I was like, I know I could do this forever, but it doesn't actually turn me on. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't bring me to life. So I just kind of, made an exit strategy out of that scene. So that's one thing that I see happen here. One thing that's really interesting is, so I started out in, you know, 2002, 2003, like when I was first starting music, and the pay for gigs has not changed very much since then. And that's the crazy, astounding thing for a cover gig. You know, back then you were getting paid like $200, $300 for a cover gig, and that's the exact same amount that you're getting now. So to me, that's mind blowing that, you know, that hasn't changed, that's the same thing. And yeah, so some things have not changed at all, and some things have changed a lot. You know, genre wise, you know, we sing soul music, or you know, we're kind of in the R&B, soul, jazz world, and there wasn't always a big market for that because culturally Australia's, you know, it's very white, let's just say. And I see that changing a lot now, which is really exciting to see. It's exciting to see a lot more brown, black, you know, people of color making waves in the music industry and finally getting some fucking recognition. Excuse my language, or I might have to beep that one out.
Beep. Yes. No. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, well, I was gonna ask you. So, like, Street University obviously is like a Western Sydney or do you have like any ties out here, or like are you from Western Sydney? I've always wanted to know.
So I grew up in a suburb called Ermington, right, which is
Yeah.
right on the cusp of, yeah, you know what Ermington is? So
Yeah.
Parramatta, Rattlemere, Ermington. That's where I grew up. So after high school, we would go to Parramatta. We'd go to hang out in Westfield. So that's definitely, you know, I got a soft spot for Parramatta because that's kind of where I grew up. But for me, I don't know, maybe because Ermington is like this in-between suburb. Even the name of it, Ermington, it's like no one knows where it is. It's like this in-between place. I never really had access to things like Street University. I didn't really know how to access those resources. So it was kind of like, I'm this church girl growing up in an Indonesian community. I didn't know what was possible for me. And it was really challenging to even see that as a possibility that I could do this. So I kind of feel like I didn't get as much of a head start, and I just, when I see initiatives like Street University, it makes me really happy because I just think, yes, there are so many people who are going to have the head start that they deserve. It really excites me.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And like, as someone who's, sorry, not to make it about me,
No,
but like,
please do.
just no, just to like applaud just like the arts organizations out in Western Sydney. They do so much, like, and they're like so helpful. So like, yeah, they're so great. If anything, like I have no idea like if there are the same opportunities or resources out like near Sydney. Like, I don't know, like I'm still yet to like comfortably really navigate myself through the Sydney scene. But obviously like you've been like, yeah, you're so, I feel like you're so well known. And even like with Frequency, I really want to talk about Frequency because that's how I came, that's how I like knew you. I knew you from Frequency. My friend Chelsea told me about it and I was like, that sounds really cool and really daunting. Do you want to,
Yes,
yeah, talk
perfect
about
combination.
Frequency?
Let's do it. Yes.
Yeah.
So Frequency is a jam session that Nadine, who's an awesome, also Western Sydney artist, does, hip hop and R&B. So I was mentoring Nadine from about 2015 and, she's put out a few records now, is doing really well. And so we have a really close friendship and we always wanted to create a live jam that felt inclusive and safe, that was nurturing, that was welcoming. And that really was about the energy because when you're coming up, all you want to do is get on stage. That's all you want to do. You want to meet people, you want to network, and you just want to sing or you want to play. But there's so many jam sessions that don't feel open and welcoming, especially if you're a woman of color. You walk in the room, you already feel like defensive. Oftentimes you do feel unsafe. Sometimes you don't know the people who are there. You don't know if you're good enough to get on the stage. Like there's so many barriers to just getting up on that stage and showing what you can do. So, we'd been talking about this for ages and we'd both been to New York and we went to this jam session they called The Lesson. And it's this epic band, like amazing band with this amazing vocalist, Jay Horde, and this amazing rapper, Phase One. And we went at different times. So I'd gone there by myself, she'd gone there by herself, but the energy in the room is so crazy. Like you can feel the energy. And there's another jam session in New York at the New Yorican that I went to, where there's like this crazy lineup around the block for people who want to come in and they get to perform either poetry or a freestyle or sing or whatever, but there's a jazz band there. So we wanted to kind of create something that was a fusion of the two. And we wanted to create a space that would amplify voices of people who are often marginalized and who are kind of feeling like there's no space for them or there's no representation for them. So we put together a grant application and we got the grant. So we got the funding to run these events. And that happened, I think it was the first event we did was in January, maybe, or February. And we honestly had no idea when we put the idea together, like we wanted to do it for ourselves. We were like, this is going to be fun. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a jam. Like it'll be cool. But we didn't realize how powerful the event would be for building community. And the thing that we got from it was the sense of community and the sense of belonging and the sense of unity that we were able to inspire. That was the most amazing thing for me. And yeah, it's so much more than just a jam session. It's the ethos, it's the community, it's the vibe. That's why we called it Frequency. It's because it was about the vibe.
Yeah. It was like I only went about, I think I went 2 or 3 times and it was really fun. It was scary. I don't think it ever got less scary.
Yeah.
I think every time I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. But it was definitely like there was always like a nice crowd and it was nice to like continue going and like seeing familiar faces and like getting to know people. It was honestly such a lovely experience. I hope it comes back because It was so fun.
We're going to do
Yeah.
our best to see what we can do. But I think what's important for me is I feel like everything we do is just kind of planting seeds.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm someone who has always started things, and you would experience this as well, right? You often feel left out. You often feel like there's no space for you, or there's no opportunities or whatever. And I have felt that a lot in my music career. And because I felt that, my solution was always, well, if I feel I don't have access to it, then there are other people who would be feeling the same way. Why don't I just create something? And so that's kind of always been my mentality, is like, I'm going to create the thing that I really want, or that I feel I don't have, or that I feel I can't access. And what I hope happens from those things is that people who are benefited from them, or people who get to enjoy and experience them, can go, oh, this doesn't exist anymore. Well, I can go start one. Well, I can go and create this. Take the things from it that you love and run with it and go create something. It doesn't have to be the same. But yeah, that's always been my thing. It's like, if you see it and you like it and you want it, go and create it. You can do that.
Yeah, I can definitely say that I felt the whole like, well, if nobody's gonna do it, I am
Just jump
type
in and
of,
get my hands dirty. Mm-hmm.
literally. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, what advice would you give to like young creatives who are wanting to create their own spaces and their own like sort of like communities? Like Western Sydney has like a really like beautiful like art scene, and so like I wonder like what advice would you give to like, yeah, young musicians, artists who are wanting to create their own spaces, and how do we make those spaces sort of like safe and inclusive?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, I think just the nature of the question that you're asking is a lot more than what a lot of event producers and promoters would ask, because in the music industry, predominantly it is run by white men, and they don't ask these questions. How can I make it feel safe? How can I make it inclusive? Who do I want this event to be? Who do I want to represent? When you're asking these questions, that automatically means that you're going to be having a level of empathy and care for the community that you want to foster and invite in. So, those questions were present for us from the start. We thought about, okay, well, who are, the voices that don't get the airtime? Who are the identities that don't get access, to these things? And so we put it in our branding, we put it in our marketing, and we were very explicit in saying, like, this is a space for queer folk, this is a space for women, this is a space for femmes, this is a space for trans folk, this is a space for brown, folk, for people who are so often marginalized. Like, we want you to feel safe here. We want you to feel like you are not just tolerated, but actually celebrated and welcomed. And I think it is important to also, know your limitations. If you, for example, if you are a white man and you're trying to create a safe, inclusive environment, well, you're going to have to see that there are some things you can't see, right? Because of your lived experience, and you don't have the lived experience of, say, a woman of color. So getting people on your team that can actually educate you and that can give you the information that you need is really important. And I think also just being honest about who you're actually there to serve, and don't try and stretch beyond what you're actually capable of delivering, because that can be harmful. So, if you want to create a space that is literally just for young women in this particular age demographic who live in this particular suburb, if you're honest and upfront about it, I think that's a lot safer than saying, oh, we're inclusive, anyone can be here. But then they come into the space and then they feel, actually, it's not safe for me to be here. So I think being really honest and being willing to have difficult, uncomfortable conversations, being willing to take feedback, all of that stuff. And really, you can only learn by jumping in and doing it. And you will fail and make mistakes. It's part of it. And, when you do fail and when you do make a mistake, having enough humility and grace to just kind of take the hit and learn from it, and come back and try again.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. So much wisdom. Wow.
It's just because I'm old. That's so good.
No, I've always thought that you were like really like, yeah, I remember when I was like listening to you talk at frequency, I was like, she's so smart. Wow. My little
It's my
brain
church
was
background. I can't help it, you know, because you came to frequency. It was about the vibe, the energy. So we'll be on stage and, you know, we talk about energy, we talk about affirmations. And to me, because I grew up in church and, you know, I'm not religious anymore. I've kind of like moved away from Christianity. But what I love about having a church upbringing and coming up in, because it was interesting. So my dad's church was an Indonesian church as well. So there's like double culture, like there's the church culture and then there's Indonesian culture. And growing up in Australia, you know, we like to say there's an Australian culture. It's kind of a non-culture, essentially. Like as in white mainstream culture is a really, to me, in my experience, is a non-culture. So having an Indonesian community that was really tight and really close, that is something that I feel I can bring into the events that I run. That real sense of community, that real sense of support, that real sense of loyalty, and like I got your back. And the church aspect to me is like, we are moving energy. Like we are in the business of making people feel things. We're in the business of like music as therapy, music as healing, music as catharsis, music as deep expression. And I think, you know, you can go to a gig and just, you know, get on the beers and enjoy yourself. That's cool. But for me, what I'm more interested in is like the deeper aspects of what music can do and what community can do for us.
Yeah, I was gonna respond. My dog's going crazy. He's protecting the house. He can't help it. He's a very protective
Amazing.
old man.
Yes, love that.
Um, sorry. So yeah, that's so true. It's like music is about so much more than just like the surface value stuff. Like it's about the community that it creates. It's about, you know, the ripple effect of like the feelings and the way in which you're able to like express, you know, a sense of self, and like the way that translates. Like it's so crazy. And I personally have written about being like of like different races. Like I myself, like I'm mixed race. I've written songs about like what that was like growing up, like looking a little bit of this, a little bit of that, being, you know, called like, oh, she's exotic, oh, she's this, but you don't really look like that much. You look more like that, or like, oh yeah, I wouldn't say you're this, a bit of that. Like I'm curious, like how was that like for you, and how do you like write about that like in your music? Yeah, like about being of a non-white race growing up in Sydney in Australia, and how that translates through to your art.
Yeah. Well, I have a song that I wrote called Go Back to Where You Came From. It came out last year. And that song really is about my identity growing up in, you know, suburbia Australia as a mixed race person, and understanding my parents' struggles. Both of them are migrants. So coming to Australia with nothing and them having to figure out how to make it work here. Also experience my dad experiencing racism and what that was like. And, you know, that slogan, go back to where you came from, the song that I wrote is about reclaiming that and actually using that as an invitation to really find out, well, where do you come from? You know, like what is your history? What are your origins? Like, what's your ancestry? And beyond that, like, as human beings, where do we come from? Like, what is the unifying factors that make us this, you know, that we share this human experience together? And music for me is always has been a healing process. It's like my art informs my music, and then my music teaches me what I need to know. So when I write a song, initially I'll think it's about this. And I'm going through this thing, breakup, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I write the song, these are the lyrics. And then through the process of producing the song, recording the song, you know, mixing, mastering, promotion, like all of that process of releasing a song, the song becomes my teacher and shows me all of the hidden layers, all of the themes in the collective psyche that we're all kind of going through together. It becomes so much bigger than just a song that I wrote. And that's kind of been the cycle and this process of my music. So for me, it's like, I know that my experience as a person who I call myself a between worlds person, you know, and maybe you can use this term if it resonates for you. When you grow up between two cultures or between two identities, you can have an identity crisis because you feel you don't belong in either side. I'm not white enough, and I'm also not brown enough, or I'm not this enough, or I'm not that enough. And so you feel like you're this in between worlds person, and you can almost feel like a ghost sometimes, like you're not really real. And for me, because I know that that's what I've experienced, and I've been able to transmute that and recognize that, well, that's a gift, that's a strength. When you sit between worlds, you can communicate with people on both sides. You have a skill set, you have a language, you can be this bridge. And I know that I'm not the only person who feels this way. So my music is always for me, and then it becomes healing for other people as well.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think that's one of the most like exciting parts of or aspects of releasing music and making music is when other people resonate with it. I always like, yeah, I think it's just like such a cool thing of like writing from such like a deeply like personal or like unique perspective, and then having other people go, oh haha, same. It's
Yeah.
like, wow.
It never fails to blow me away how the more specific we get with our stories, the more people resonate.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Because you think that we're so different. Actually, we're fucking not.
No, no one will never achieve this quirky, unique status. we'll never achieve it because
I hate to break it to you, but you are not uniquely broken.
No, God, no. The 1975 have been there, done that.
we're all here in this human experience, you know, and what's beautiful about art is that it gives us definitely maybe a unique perspective, and maybe we get to express our experience in a language that, you know, is particular to us, right? Like we have our own unique language. But when you said resonate, like that's so much deeper than words, right? It's, you feel it on an unexplainable level, like below your even your awareness. When you hear a song and you might resonate with the lyrics and the combination with the melody, with the chords, you know, with the pace, with this particular, you know, sound, all of it hits in a very particular way, and it's like opens up something inside you where it feels like somehow familiar, and it's like it gives you this emotion that you know that you really love. So it's a magical experience. Like to me, I see musicians as magicians.
I like that. I like that. That's a
We're doing
that's a
magic.
about it. Yeah, so true. So true. It's so easy to just like undersell yourself. I feel like, well, me, but that's such a beautiful way to think about it, is that like it's so much more.
So much more.
Yeah. Okay, let's move back to when we're talking about when you first got started in music. I know that you have your own record label, God Queen
It's God
Records.
Queen. Yeah, God Queen Records.
Gorgeous. How did you get that started, and like well, I guess like why, but I'd love to hear about the how, the why, the when, the where, the all of it. Yeah.
I mean, really, same deal. It was like I don't have this thing that I really want. You know, I've been signed before, and that kind of went nowhere. And for me, I'm such a community oriented person. I always, like, I've been mentoring, you know, since 2014, because I feel like if I know something, then I want to share that information, and I want to share any resources that I have. So I think it was around 2014, I started getting ideas of having a collective of women who share resources, who put their ideas together, who, you know, can help each other out in areas that maybe I'm not saying for, you know, I might be strong in a certain area, but I might have a weakness in this area, and somebody else might be the opposite, right? I'm really good at this, but I'm not so good at that. So being able to share resources, being able to support, inspire, and empower one another, that was the vision. And you know, like all good things, somebody just kind of has to say, all right, I'm just going to do it. And that's kind of what I did. So I just initially, it was my own music that I was putting through. And then some of the women that I was mentoring, we would start releasing their stuff through the label as well. And the idea is that I will help you and support you and take you as far as I can get you. And then when someone comes along who can do more for you than I can, then amazing. Like I celebrate you and like, yes, like we were successful. So at the moment, like with Nadine, for example, so she released her first release through God Queen Records in collaboration with another label who's a friend of ours. And then, that took off and worked really well. And now she's signed to Elephant Tracks, and so I'll always be there for her as a sister, as a supporter. And there's still that community or family aspect, but she's doing her own thing now. And so God Queen exists as this label for whoever's kind of around me in my field who I'm working with. If I really believe in their talent and their music, then, I'm just kind of helping to get their music out there. So it's really not like a big corporation at this point. Really, it's like, this is a channel, to help you release your music. And I can just give you what I know and share with you the resources that I have. And, hope that will be enough to like start the wave for you and, lead on to other things.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. Yeah, God, I'll tell you what, if in the next 5 years I'm looking at the same thing, honestly, it's like, why not just do it for yourself? Definitely. And it's the same thing with like managers, bookers. Like when you're independent, it's like, just do it for yourself. Like, I don't know, like
here's the thing, usually artists want to be signed to a label because they believe that if there's a label backing me, then I'll be successful. Like then I won't have to, do this hard work that I'm doing and somebody else will do it for me. And I've been that person, I've had managers, I've had bookers, I've had record labels. And I wanted someone to take me on because I was fucking exhausted and I didn't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so confused. Can someone just help me? And you put yourself in quite a disempowered state. And you think that having someone else who understands the business is going to be the best thing for you. But so many times it's not the best thing for you. You lose power, you lose agency. Oftentimes you have to make a lot of creative sacrifices and compromises. Sometimes it'll stray you from your artistic vision. Oftentimes not empowering yourself to understand the back end and like the numbers can be really dangerous. You can put yourself in a really vulnerable position where people will take advantage of you, where people will hide things from you. And, no, I won't talk about other people, like just keep it to my experience. But yeah, it happens all the time, especially to young women, because it's like this like, rescue me, we kind of play this damsel in distress. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Please come and save me. And then, the label comes along, and says, oh, we're going to do this for you. And we're going to do that for you. And you play into it. And, how many years down the track and you've totally disempowered and you don't have the same life force and energy and excitement for music that you had when you started out. I don't want that to happen to people. And I think now we're in this generation of really do it yourself. But the trap of do it yourself is you think that you have to do everything yourself. And it's actually not true. What we can do is develop the strengths that you have, definitely get educated on, the things that you need to have, but also like lean on your community. To me, that's where independent artistry is going to excel, when we can be open enough to share resources between other independent artists and support each other and say, cool, well, I'm really good at this. Like, what do you have? Okay, well, this is my weakness. Well, how can I use that from you? Like, to me, that is true independent artistry. It's not just like, I've got to do everything myself and now I'm burnt out and, I don't have any energy for anything else. That's not useful.
No, it's it's scary being an independent artist and like towing the line of like, I am like exactly like what you said, like I'm doing everything by myself. And it definitely has like high points down, like there are like some really good times where it's like, oh, I've just gotten this like awesome opportunity all by myself. But then again, when you're like in it for a while, like when you're pushing really hard, like continuously, it can get so draining. And it's like, I want someone to help me. So I guess it's like, when do you know when it's safe to accept help from, your high end business people? Like, when do you know when it's like safe to be like, okay, I will let you help? But it's a tricky thing, I think. And I think like the important thing is that like, it's when you're ready and like when you're comfortable, like not to jump into like locking yourself into any like sketchy deals. Like whenever I see a contract, I'm always like,
I think what's really important is understand your strengths and weaknesses. I would say that's the first thing, because even the term management, like what does management do? You ask 10 different managers, they'll give you 10 different answers. It's not cut and dry. It's not clear, especially now, the relationship between the label, the booking agent and management, like, and also that's so overwhelming when you're just starting out. You don't, to be honest, you don't know what you need when you're just starting out. You have no clue what is going to really help you and serve you. So, I think here's a suggestion. This is like what I think would be really beneficial if you're just starting out and you don't have management, you don't have an agent, you don't have anything. What I would do is I would get 3 other artists in a similar position to me, and because I've done this before, and I would just have weekly or fortnightly calls with each other where you check in and just brainstorm. All right, cool. So what's your next move? Okay, what do you need to do? Oh, here, I've got this resource. Okay, I've got this. Even just that, between the 4 of you, you will go a lot further than trying to do it alone. And you keep each other accountable. You help each other when you're stuck. When you aren't inspired, you can share like your process, what you're going through. And I think that is a really, cheap, it's free. It's a free way to still have progress and momentum without having to, find a manager initially or get coaching or, whatever else you want to do. So that's what my suggestion would be if you're just starting out. Get 3 artists around you who are in a similar place and just support each other and help each other and share resources and keep each other accountable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like like having a community of like-minded and like similar sort of artists, it's so helpful. It does go such a long way. That's a really good idea. I feel like that naturally tends to happen sometimes too. Like I feel like so many like Sydney creatives that I've met have been like really like generous with like their time and like with just like lending a hand. So I think that's one really beautiful thing that like the Sydney art scene has going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to touch on what you said earlier, so like, how do you know when it's time to, to sign with someone or whatever? I'll speak to that for a little bit. What I will say is, because I said, understand your strengths and weaknesses so that you know that whoever this person is that wants to enter into contract with you, know what they bring to the table, so that if what they're bringing to the table is actually going to fill in the gaps that you can't do for yourself. So if they can offer the services that you yourself cannot do, well, that's great. So you get to play to your strengths and you get to support it in the areas that you're not that great in. Another thing that I would definitely look at is like, what is their track record? Who have they worked with in the past, and what wins or successes have they got from the other people that they've been working with? I would also, ask, firstly, 2 things. Like, do you share the same vision of what you want for yourself? Because as an artist, if you don't have a strong vision for yourself, then, someone else will come in and sell you a picture of what they could do for you, but that might not be what's right for you. So have a vision for where you yourself want to go in your career. And if you're going to work with someone, make sure that you're both on the same page in terms of the direction that you're heading in, because there is no one correct path for music success. It's just not a thing. We have this idea that there's this make it, like, what the hell does make it mean? Success is personally defined, and there's so many factors. It's about, being financially secure. It's about recognition. It's about being emotionally well and, your well-being, your mental health. Like, there's so many factors to it. So if you are going to get a team, just make sure that everyone's on the same page in terms of your vision and your values. The values that you hold have to be compatible. So that's what I will say on that.
Yes. So good. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so helpful for other like young artists that are like listening in. On behalf of like other young artists as well, I would love to ask, oh god damn it, I had a really good question just then in my head. I had it ready. It's ready to go. Wait, let me think. It was like,
come back.
What would you suggest? If I come back to it, I'll say it. It's so annoying. It was a really good question. Okay, in the meantime, Oh my gosh, this chaotic front fringe. In the meantime, let's chat about your latest single, X Demons.
True. Ex
Very
demons.
a gorgeous, gorgeous track. Tell us a bit about it.
Okay. I wrote Ex Demons when I was going through a breakup a few years ago. And really, when you're in a relationship with someone and it has become quite interwoven, I'll say, and it's difficult for you to let go, to walk away, it can feel sometimes like this person, and especially when it's been really toxic and painful, to me, it felt like this person was a demon, like an actual demon in my system that I had to exercise out of my body. And yeah, like once we'd already broken up, I could still feel his energy in me. I could still feel that I wasn't clear. And so it just kind of became this thing. I sat at the piano one time and I was just like, exercising demons, and that's just what came through. And so really it's just a very honest and literal story of that breakup and what it showed me about myself, unresolved childhood wounds, unresolved daddy issues, all of this kind of stuff that when we get into a relationship, it's never just about you and that person. It's about you and all the different versions of you and them and all the different versions of them and what you hope it to be. And then you get disappointed because you've fallen in love with their potential or not who they truly are. So there's a bunch of stuff. And I really write quite literally, like I really share very honestly about what I'm going through and I put it all in my music. And then I went to New Orleans in 2019 and that was unplanned. I was in New York and I just had this feeling like I'm not ready with America. I need to do something else. So I booked a ticket to New Orleans through a series of synchronicities and I booked a studio. I found a band the night before the studio sessions. I had all of these songs that I'd already written and I taught the band the songs literally in the studio. And over 3 days, we recorded a whole album. And so that's the album that X Demons is from, and it's called Honey Fire. It's coming out next year. So there's more crazy stories, but that's the story of X Demons.
That's so cool. That sounds like such a dream.
Yeah, it's wild. It was wild.
Oh, that's wild. But like we need a bit of chaos to get through, hey.
Chaos. Yes. Give me all the chaos.
I thrive off the chaos. I thrive. Okay. I'm very happy to say I remembered my question.
Yes.
So my question is, and this is for artists that are just starting out, in your wise opinion, how do you suggest that artists starting out not compare themselves and their progress to other artists?
I mean, comparison is a big problem. We all deal with it. And maybe an interesting perspective that I use when I'm doing that, I'm comparing, because comparing itself is not bad. Like all comparing is taking two things and seeing how they're the same and how they're different, right? The problem with comparing or comparison is that we use the things that we find to weaponize against ourselves. And it's what we say after we compare. So for example, there's an artist who's like me, but is doing better than I'm doing. That's usually the thing, right? Oh, but we're in a similar category. We're both women, or we're both this, or we're both that, but they're doing so much better than me. So that in itself is fine. But it's what you add on to that is the problem, because then you say, oh, that means that I'm not as good as them, or that means that the industry is so unfair, or that means this, or that means that. So it's all of the additional story junk that really is what gives us like those painful feelings. So I think just being really mindful of the narrative that you're constructing around that comparison. It's like you can totally compare yourself, but you have to, if you're going to compare, go all the way. So see the ways in which you are the same as an artist and the ways in which you are different. When I've gone into comparison stories around even artists that, we came up together, or artists that I've invested a lot of time in mentoring, like I've developed, a lot of artists kind of off the rate, what's the word I'm looking for? Like unofficially,
Yeah.
And then they get really successful. that can really trigger me, just being honest. I'm like, that should be me, or blah, blah, like all the stories, they come up. Like, I'm just gonna be honest about it.
Yeah. I just thought of Regina George. I don't know why. Like,
Yeah.
made her.
Yeah, you're going to have that, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
then you put yourself in competition with them. They never signed up for a competition. Like, why do you just put them in this competition with you that nobody ever consented to? So, that has happened to me a lot of times. And what I've had to do is recognize that, yes, we are similar in many ways. We are also different in many ways. And my path is unique to me. And, for me, I might be similar to an artist who's in my age group, who sings similar music to me, but I'm also different in that I'm a mother, I'm a single mother. I also spend a lot of time coaching and mentoring other artists. So we might have the same amount of energy, but in terms of where that energy is going to create different results. So if you are going to compare, make sure that you compare the differences as much as you compare the similarities, and that will help to neutralize things a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really whenever I try and like figure it out in my head, I'm like, just don't do it. It's useless. What's the point? That's such a better way. It's unavoidable. It's
You have the
unavoidable.
discipline to be like, just don't compare. That's great. Like,
I
respect if you
don't.
do have the discipline. But I don't. It happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yeah.
really about, here's the key to like everything. All right. I'm just going to give everyone the key to life. The only reason we suffer is because we don't want to feel feelings. That's the only reason we suffer, right? If you were totally happy to have this experience, this feeling that you're having, like, it's cool. You can feel it and just get on with it anyway. It's okay to feel jealous. It's okay to feel confused. It's okay to feel insecure. Like, these feelings are all valid, even shame, like guilt, whatever the fear is. It's just a feeling. If you give yourself permission to feel it, don't make yourself wrong. Don't judge yourself for feeling the feeling. Like, even if it's like, I hate you, I'm so fucking jealous of you, and I hate you, I want to destroy you. Like, if that's what you feel it. And then continue doing what you're doing and just keep going. It's just a feeling. That is literally like the answer to everything.
Yeah. I mean, what? I mean, what? I mean, damn.
I
Beep.
mean, that's it, right? But that's the thing that sabotages us the most, is like, I don't want to go for this opportunity because what? Because it might not work out. And if it doesn't work out, I'll feel rejected. Okay, that's a feeling. All right, cool. Or I don't want to talk to this person because what if blah, blah, blah. All right. And then you'll feel that. It's like, it's always just, we're afraid of feeling. That's it. So if you get really good at feeling your feelings, then most of your sabotage is dealt with.
And that's it. And that's it. Wow.
Sounds simple, but go put in practice.
It's that's a lifelong commitment, definitely. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your wisdom. Thank you for gracing us with your amazing words of wisdom. Yeah, I don't know what other word to use otherwise.
That's fine. Thank you. No, I appreciate you. And thanks for having me. It's been a really great conversation. And I just want to say to everyone out there, I'm around. I'm a real human being. I'm on social media. If you have questions, or if you need help with things, like, just send me a message. If I have the time, I always reply to messages if there's a question there. If I can't be the person to support you or help you, then I can point you in a different direction to someone who can help you. But yeah, don't be afraid to reach out, make connections. I know it's really intimidating, and even I feel that way sometimes, but your career is not just based on your talent. It's also based on how strong the networks are that you can create for yourself.
Where can people find you?
You can go to Instagram. Alphamama is the handle there. I also have a Facebook page, but Facebook's dying. Let's be real about it. I'm on Twitter. The best thing to do is, send me a DM on Instagram, and I'll give you my email address, and we can go from there if you want to.
Yeah, okay. And did you have anything you wanted to like shout out or promote last minute?
To be honest, no. I mean,
No?
all my stuff is out on social media. Just go follow me and you will
Oh,
hear
yeah.
so essentially what I do other than music is I also do, mentoring and coaching. And so that's a combination of like spiritual, career, life coaching. So if you have things that you need to work on, then, hit me up. That's what I do.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much to Street Uni and to you, Alphamama, for having this amazing conversation. And yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.